Women and men of the 515 AMAU, I hope this brand new 2021 Howzit video finds you doing well. A few things that we're going to be talking about today. First and foremost, why I chose to get the COVID vaccine, just kind of some of my personal reasons on why I chose to do it. Secondly, we'll talk a little bit about good paperwork, just because it's the season with EPRs and OPRs and all that sorts of things that are going on, annual awards coming up and whatnot, so it's good to talk a little bit about it. And lastly, we'll discuss a little bit my perspectives on the current ongoing civil unrest. As we talk about with the Howzit before, this is our opportunity to talk amongst ourselves within the wing. That's the reason why this isn't some fancy video with teleprompter and all those sorts of things, and it's not something you're going to see on my wing Facebook page or anything like that. This is our chance to talk. Hopefully, you'll take a look at these and say, hey, you know what? There's some good ideas in here. There are a couple of topics that are worth talking about with each other, because that's always our intent, to give us something to discuss in those 3 to 5 minute conversations that we're having throughout the week with each other in, kind of those one-on-one topics. I honestly do not care if you agree with me, disagree with me, because this isn't a right or wrong sort of thing. It's a chance to share with you some of my perspectives, and maybe it will generate conversations on what are honestly some tough topics. So that's the intent here, is for us to have these open and candid conversations. But before I get into those three topics, a couple of things real quick I wanted to hit on. AMC Commander General Van Ovis and Chief BK's virtual visit. You guys are awesome. You did a great job. Thank you so much for everyone who engaged in that and helped to make it happen. You should know that I did not listen in on any of your individual engagements there. So those conversations, those are between you and the commander and Chief BK. There will be a TMT tasker that will follow it up purely for awareness on things that you guys need us to follow up engagement on, such as, hey, boss said that we should expect to see this widget coming out by mid-June. Great. So it's really easy for me and my staff to engage with the AMC staff to let you know updates on that. I would like to think, that we could get to a place where it would also be super easy for you all to do that too, but you got the mission to worry about, go focus on that. And as we've seen with the amount of time we've spent engaging, trying to get through x-ray machines, that, sometimes these are tougher than we hope them to be. So those are the sorts of things that we're looking for in the TMT tasker. The only other one you're going to see out there is we really want to know what we could do better. So if there's any lessons learned, because we know we're going to have a chance to have the EC commander out here in May, as well as hopefully to do an in-person with General Van Ovis and Chief BK in the future too. So my intent is that we kind of, just dust off the great work that was already done, do updates and go from there. So anything that we can improve on or capture right now for that, those are the things we're looking for. But super excited that you guys all had great engagements and conversations through there. Another topic I wanted to hit on real quick. So if you didn't get a chance to see Colonel Cooley's video last week, or if you ever missed any of the other Howzit videos out there, I do recommend to follow up on them when you get a chance. But specifically, he hit on New Year's resolutions. So now that the new year is kicked off, I just want to reiterate a couple of his points. Every day is a good day to reflect a little bit and decide to make yourself better. It doesn't have to be 1 January, it could be 9 June, 8 July, 1 August, whatever that date is. Hopefully it's today and every day to say, you know what, these are some things that I can do to be better, and I want to get at being better. When I think about personal change and trying to make a change in my own personal life, one of the things that I'll talk about is I kind of characterize them into two voices that are kind of in your head. I think we all have that voice in our head that says, it'd be great if I, took a class, got a little bit smarter, maybe spent a little bit more time working on this task at work. Hey, maybe lost a few pounds, put on a few more on the guns, whatever the case may be. Those are those things that you're always kind of thinking about, like, yeah, that'd be good. That'd be a good change to me. But then there's that other voice, the one that for me really matters, and that's the one that wants it more. And I'm just going to encourage you, think about that voice, the voice that really says, you know what, I really want to do this. I really, really want to make this change in my life, and encourage that voice, because it's easy to just sit back and say, yeah, it'd be good to do that. It'd be good to, do these things that would make my life better, work on my relationships with my family, whatever. But then the one that really wants it, more, that's the one that's worth invested in. So just something to consider. All right. So let's talk a little bit about my choice to vaccinate. I did put a quick Wing Facebook page on video on that one, but we'll go into a little bit more detail here because that's what we try to do in these sorts of videos. So I will tell you, it was a great opportunity that I got. I was not on that priority, or we're not yet at the place where my ticket would come up in the priority for getting the vaccine, but I was on a short recall list. So literally, these vaccines have a time in which they're good, and then at that point they expire once the vial is open. And because I'm on a very short recall list, even though I was in a lower priority to get the vaccine, at the time it was given for me, I was a quick call from the med group commander. I was over there in 10 minutes, and I was literally the last dose of COVID vaccine that went out but prior to the Christmas break. So they shot me, they were closing doors and out because they'd used up all the vaccine at that point that they had in their inventory for what they were doing at that time. More vaccines coming, and yep, those are all coming through. But that's how I got the opportunity. It was a great opportunity, and I thought about it quite a bit ahead of time on why I wanted to do it should the opportunity come up, and that's why I'm just gonna share with you some of the things that I'd gone through and considered. Do know it is right now voluntary, 100%, and that it eventually will be offered to offered and available to every airman is the intent of where we're going with this. So I took the vaccine in part because of my oath to the U.S. Constitution. As an airman, I believe very, very strongly in this idea that it is our mission to be prepared to defend the ideals of democracy, the ideals of the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And that includes staying healthy to be mission ready. So that was a big part of it for me. As a wingman, I did it, to help protect those that I serve with, and frankly, to decrease the chance that I would infect my teammates. That's just part of it, that played into my thought process. Doesn't mean that it's 100% that I won't infect my teammates, but I know that it helps decrease the chance of it. Same as a father and husband, to help decrease that chance and help protect my family. And then as an American, we kind of joke with the video that's out there. If you haven't seen it on vaccinations, hey, I'm not going to miss my shot. But really, it's a chance to it's a shot to help protect my community. And I do believe, as Americans, we are part of a bigger community. We're part of an international community, as well as the community we serve with within the military and just our general fellow Americans. So I wanted to take the opportunity to be part of that. And then there's the part of I did a fair amount of research. I looked into it ahead of time. I wanted to know what this thing was that they were going to put into my body to the best that I could, and recognizing that I'm not a scientist. But I thought it was some good things to know to get at it. First and foremost, there's been decades of groundbreaking work on this type of vaccine, what's called a messenger RNA vaccine. And that's important to realize that even though COVID is new, and using this style of vaccination is new. Since the 1990s, there's been work on figuring out how do we get to mRNA vaccines, what's called messenger RNA, mRNA. I love the idea that the vaccine is training my immune system. It's not a shot that protects me as long as it's in my blood. This is something that is training my immune system to attack and defeat COVID. And that was, important to me. But all vaccines are that way. And three of the most common, although there's more than just these three, are vaccines that take a weakened version of the virus, and we put that in our bodies, and then knowing that because it's a weakened version, our body's going to do a pretty good job, our immune system, of defeating it and learning how to defeat it, and training that immune system. We do the same thing sometimes with dead virus. So we put that dead virus into a vaccine, and then that dead virus is able to be taken by our immune system. It's pretty easy, not always easy, but it's easier for our immune system to learn, hey, this is dead virus, here's how I defeat it. And then another one, which is really pretty cool, is we break off parts of the virus that we're trying to defeat, and then we put just those little parts into the body. Taking that live virus, breaking it down into those parts, and putting just those little parts. And then once our immune system knows how to attack those parts, when it does encounter the real virus, it's able to actually get down and do it. The hard thing with that part process is it can take a while. It's not an easy process to do. You can imagine microscopic bacteria and viruses that you're breaking down and then trying to get just those little parts into a vaccine. That's not easy to do. So that's the really, really cool thing about messenger RNA is we can synthetically make messenger RNA, which will teach our bodies to create those little parts, proteins, but create just those little parts of the coronavirus vaccine in this case. But this technology that we've developed is going to be able to be done for all sorts of other vaccines in the future, this mRNA technique. So now my body is producing just those small little parts of the COVID virus. I've never had any actual COVID virus injected in me through the vaccine. I'm producing those little proteins and now teaching my immune system to defeat those proteins so that if it does actually come into contact with the coronavirus vaccine, it's going to be able to say, hey, I know how to defeat this. I've defeated these proteins before and I'm able to get after it. And I just think that is absolutely amazing. It's worth noting that, hey, it has been through a lot of different trials. Thousands and thousands of people were tried on before the vaccine went public. A very diverse group as well. They didn't say only this particular population. A very diverse population received the trials too. So a very thorough studies that have gone into it. And there's a lot of, hey, great, so you're saying that. Who are you? You're just some wing commander. So we'll definitely put in the comments some links of places I went. I encourage you to go other places to do your research too. I will tell you, I like to go to official government sites for some of my research, because as a member of a government organization, I think we do a pretty good job of not taking in other viewpoints that would be for, say, a political reason or some other agenda, and trying to trying to present information. With that said, we're still made up of human beings. Human beings make mistakes, and I can think of, there's definitely been times, even as a military, where, we haven't done perfect. We've obviously made mistakes because we're an imperfect organization. So in addition to, taking information from the CDC and organizations like that, I also generally like to go to educational universities. So, I'm on some topics, I'll actually read research papers and things of that nature. I'll tell you, for this one that's a little bit deeper into the technical knowledge than I'd probably be able to easily understand. But two, I was more interested in seeing what some of these places had, such as you'll see there's an article there from Stanford as well as one from Harvard on how they've approached it and how they've looked at it, which I find in this particular case an easier way to go about getting some of that information. So that's where I researched. I'm sure there's way better ways to do it, but just sharing with you a few of the things that went into it for me. I said it in my other video, but absolutely amazing what these women and men have done over the last few decades to develop the vaccine, the ones that are right now producing the vaccine, as well as, all those frontline responders that are making it happen, getting out there every day and taking on the COVID vaccine. And just as impressive as each and every one of you who are being part of the process in which we get the vaccine and all the other important critical cargo that needs to be pushed around the world, specifically within our region. So thank you to each and every one of those individuals. And truly, I mean it. When you get the opportunity, I just hope you consider some of this stuff. Make an informed decision. There's going to be a different decision, a different process by which this comes down for every single person when they come to that decision of yes or no on how they're doing it, and that's okay. You should be able to go through that. I just don't want you to do it based on some random information or something you heard walking through the hall or something like that. Hopefully you'll take a time to really think about it, because it's important and a ton of work has gone into it, and it's really, really a cool thing to see in the world that we live in. This is an opportunity we're being given. All right, let's talk a little bit about paperwork. So paperwork right now, it's that thing that's going on. It's just that time of year. Performance reports, particularly the static closeout ones, are all coming due. One of the things I talk about with the front office all the time, and I've been doing for years, is good paperwork puts food on plates and puts Christmas presents underneath the Christmas tree. And what I'm saying about that is only you can get yourself promoted. Only the work that you're doing will actually make that happen. But how we present that work, how we capture that and push it forward to the boards and decisions that need to be made for that is important, because if we don't capture that great work you're doing correctly, then we'll miss an opportunity, to get those things that you want to occur, those goals within your lives within reach. So what are the things that we can do about it? One of the techniques that I've used for a long time, and I really, really recommend, is supervisors need to delegate and teach how to do better writing for performance reports. And you see great work done by teams all across the Air Force where, hey, let's do a bullet writing class. And I absolutely continue to encourage those techniques. Those are good ones. But it's all about how do we make those better supervisors in the future. I will tell you, it varies a little bit by AFSC, but in general, two of the hardest transitions in the Air Force to make are from NCO to senior NCO and from CGO to FGO, that captain to major transition. And the reason for that is generally that's about the time when we're really asking people to say, hey, I know I've really had you focus on how do you become a subject matter expert in that particular aspect of this mission that you're doing for the overall Air Force, to now I need you to make that transition to we're doing more leadership and more management of the people who are now doing the mission, and it's so, I'll tell you, I'd give anything to go back and be a captain flying the line sometimes. I mean, it is just absolutely a great thing to be. But there's also some pretty great things about being a wing commander. So when you get the opportunity, I hope that you'll embrace it. And one of the things that we can do as senior leaders is start to teach those techniques early. It's real easy to say, hey, there's not enough time. All I want those folks to do is focus purely on the mission. But I would argue there's generally a little bit of time out there. We could probably find an extra 10 to 15 minutes a week to just give a little glimpse into it and say, hey, here's how you get good at it, so that when it is time for those folks to make that transition, it's a bit easier for them and it doesn't become so overwhelming, particularly sometimes the very first time that they're coming through this transition, and as well as this paperwork season that we're currently in the middle of. One technique I like that I often share with folks is having somebody write their own performance report. So I will be completely honest with people. Sometimes I won't use it. There won't be a single thing in there that I will use. But it's really important to give them the opportunity to take a case where they know everything about the subordinate, because it's them, right? They know better than anyone what are the things they're doing. We'll teach them the part later on of how to be a good leader and how to understand these are all the different things that all these people your supervisor are actually working on that you might miss if you're not out there and you're not engaging with them. But when I'm just trying to teach you how to get better at understanding paperwork, a great place to start is just do a draft on yourself, all right? And sometimes there'll be stuff in that draft that'll be like, yeah, that's awesome, that's really good, or here's how to take that information and make it better. But it gives you a baseline to start with of, hey, so let's work from that and let's go ahead and build on that, and then teach you those skills of, yeah, I understand what you're trying to say about yourself, but for the people who are going to take that information and make an assessment of it, if you kind of tweak it a little bit and you capture it in this way, they'll be able to better understand the huge impact that you're having day in and day out on the Air Force and on the Air Force's mission. So technique that I'll offer you there on how to get at it. But once again, I'm just encouraging you that this is a good time to be in the paperwork season. It's a great time to get to capture and reflect all the amazing things that are occurring, in the mission, and to help our folks meet the goals that they want to be. So all good stuff. And then just one last plug. So quarterly awards due 12 January, annual awards 17 January. Don't miss the opportunity there as well. All right, last thing we're going to talk about, and I know I've gone way long, some of my perspectives on the recent civil unrest and kind of our roles as a military member, because I just think it's something important that we need to be willing to talk about, particularly within our teams. So the protests and the breaking into the Capitol building yesterday, that's going to have an impact on some of our folks, and it's going to impact some of our airmen more so than others. And I think it's really important that we look for those opportunities to talk about it and to listen. If we have a hurricane, we'll go around and ask, hey, has anybody got family back in this part of the country who might have been impacted by the hurricane? Wildfires, we do the same thing. And I talked about this, I know, as well back with the civil unrest over the summer too, but who's going in and saying, hey, do you got any family back in the DC area who are impacted about this? And honestly, it is something that's affecting our own nation. So we've got friends and families who are in completely other parts of the country who are really, really being impacted by this. And that will then have an impact on our airmen as well too. And unless we're having these open dialogues and talking about it, then we can miss some of the stress and things that are going on in their lives. So I very much do encourage you all to take part in that, and just find a chance to listen and have a little bit of empathy and kind of understand those positions. So as a role for us as military members, I'll offer you this: 99.9% of us at some point are going to go back to being civilians. And I hope that includes me too, because if I'm not, that means that I've died in the line of duty as a active duty service member, which I'm 100% ready to do day in and day out for each and every one of you. But the honest choice is I'd kind of rather, have a retirement ceremony someday and go on and grow older rather than, since I'm already old, but at least grow older and do some of those sorts of things. For most people though that serve, it's a lot less than the time that the Terry family's been in the Air Force. So a lot of folks, it's that 6 to 10 year type of time frame, and along with that, one of the things that really hits at why we have our development LOE that Chief Smith and all of you are engaging on too, but particularly a lot of your senior leaders, is how do we help our airmen and our families get to be the best persons that they should ever desire to be? That's what it's about. How do we provide you different opportunities where you can look at and say, yeah, I'm interested in that. I think I could be a better person if I took advantage of that opportunity, and make sure that they understand the opportunities that are available to them. And that's a huge part of really what the development LOE is just trying to get at. So to that end, it's important to be informed, to be able to have an opinion, to be able to express that opinion. It's important to exercise your right to vote, if that's what's right for you. It's part of the reason why we, assign voting officers to help make sure you have that information available to you. And it's all just part of being that best possible self. Another thing though that kind of comes with that, and about being that best possible self, is trying to be more self-aware. Now, I will say we're probably all pretty bad at being self-aware. I will tell you, I personally, I know for a fact I'm bad at it. It's so much so that we have kind of this ongoing joke within the Terry family. So if I do something stupid, like we're in the commissary parking lot and I go down the wrong way because traffic's only supposed to go one way, and Miss Tanya gently reminds me that, hey, you know what, this is one way, you're supposed to go the other way, my standard answer will be, well, I'm kind of a big deal. And the reason that's the joke is because it's such a ridiculous thing to say that it just, reminds us that, hey, you know what, you're an idiot. Be a little bit more aware of your surroundings and what's going on. So the reason I bring it up, and I know you're going to kind of have to hang with me here for a minute, not that you haven't already going into this, but the connection between self-awareness and my perspective on civil unrest. You see, humans, whether you look at us as being uniquely created or we've evolved this capability since the beginning of literally recorded history, thousands and thousands of years, we've always had this capability to make patterns, to organize information. It's one of the things that has made us really, really successful and dominate as a species. We can look at things and create a pattern out of it. And you see it like with constellations and the stars. You know, they're just a bunch of stars, but we make these constellations out of it. And because we make those pictures out of it, we're then able to navigate and find our ways around. You can think of pictures painted on walls, hieroglyphs like Egyptian hieroglyphs, the creation of alphabets, even today in how we teach machines to organize and manage information for us. You know, this is all comes down to our ability to see these patterns and to really just kind of make ourselves successful in how we understand the world. But it's also part of our self-awareness. We should realize that it does create the chances, the opportunities for us to kind of fool ourselves, to trick ourselves into something that is accurate information, not necessarily being perceived by us in the right way. Because you see, we create this idea of how the world is, all right? This is something that we all do it, and it's okay that we all do it, but in order, because of all the different information that's out there, we need to find a way to make sense of it, to create this worldview of what's going on. So we make this pattern. And it becomes increasingly complicated when you throw into the fact that sometimes it's really hard to know what's true information and what's, you know, potentially not true information. You know, and this has always been the case. Somebody walked into the village from the other village, you know, long before there was ever any electricity or something. And they said, well, this happened, you know, with the ruler, the king, or whatever the case may be. And you'd hope that that was good information, but you didn't know. But that new information would then change your worldview. So it's not an uncommon thing that we continue to strive to find out what's accurate information or not. But even when it is good info and it's actually true information, it can be hard to process that accurate new information if it doesn't fit our worldview. So let me give you kind of an example. I am a master navigator, all right? This is what my profession was based on, is the idea that I spent the vast majority of my adult life looking at maps, charts, those sorts of things, and understanding the world and the globe. Because of all of the work that's gone into creating this worldview that I have, and this one mini slice of my worldview, if you were to ask me, hey, what's bigger, Africa or South America? My off-the-cuff answer is going to be, they're about the same size. Africa's a little bit bigger. And I know Africa's a little bit bigger. Reality is, Africa's almost twice the size of South America. But because of all the ways that I've processed information my entire life, in how I actually capture that in my mind, my off-the-cuff answer is, yeah, they're about the same size, but they're not. They're nowhere close to the same size. Africa is massive compared to South America. Not that South America is small, but those are just things that are really hard for our minds to comprehend. And like I said, we do this with world events. We do this with things that occur in our workplace, and we do this when things happen in our families. We have this idea, this world view of what we think are this, you know, personal view of what we think our family should look like. You know, whether that be a Cosby family, you know, the Roseanne Barr, you know, that type of family, you know, or whatever, you know, you've pictured in your mind, or maybe it was an example that you saw from your from when you're growing up, or whatever the case may be. We take these informations and we create these ideas of, you know, what our families look like. We watch a lot of Simpsons in our household, and I hope our kids don't think that that's the way the family should be, because maybe that's not the right way, or maybe there are some aspects of it, whatever the case may be. Those are the sorts of things that go into it, and we all do it, and it's perfectly fine. But because of that ability to take in new information, that's one of the things that I've always really strove to be kind of that neutral area. If I can be in that neutral area, it makes it sometimes a lot easier to take in new information and to assess that information. And if I'm way on one portion of a view or way on another portion of a view, then it becomes a lot more difficult sometimes to take in new information when it's contrary to that worldview that I have. So another thing to consider in there, in how we perceive things and how we start to take in the new information as it's occurring. So last on this one is the perspective. There's this perception of the military, and I will tell you, if we don't maintain a certain neutrality in that, it can affect our decision making process. So, for example, if I think a potential adversary's nation, whatever that nation is, in our theater, the one that we spend the most time talking about is China and the reemergence of China. If I have this view that China will always act this way, I might miss new information that's coming into it, and that's something that I have to consider and work through. And that's the reason to continue to have this idea of that neutrality aspect of it. And that's why we'll also talk about, particularly within professional military advice, how do I remain apolitical? If somebody takes the work that I've done on, hey, here's how we improve our alliances and we help our partner nations that we're working on, or the work that I've done on how do we maintain secure nuclear weapons, or even the work that I've done on how to do deterrence. These are ideas that I've put out there in writing, and somebody's capturing that and they say, oh, you know what? This is interesting, but Colonel Terry, he's part of this political party, or Colonel Terry is part of that political party, and that takes away from the idea then that I'm not holding up my responsibility to maintain the best ideas for our nation's security, rather than ideas that are focused on one political agenda or another. So that's part of also that I consider when I'm going through some of these things that may be informative to you, or they may not be. So, like I said, just a couple of things to consider. The last one is you engage in social media or any other types of communication. Just think through, there's a lot of different ideas out there, and every idea, before you just automatically grab onto it, probably deserves a little bit of your attention and a little bit of critical thinking about it, and say, okay, what does this really mean to me, and how do I want to move forward with it? So, all right, we've talked way too long today, and I recognize that, but with the type of year it's been, I knew that this one would go long, and that's okay. As always, it remains my privilege to serve with each and every one of you. Please wash your hands, keep your distance, wear your mask, consider getting vaccinated, and consider if that's the right decision for you. But last and most importantly, just take care of each other. All right, press.